let the record show that I do not sew. My wife does. Not that there's anything wrong with men sewing, but I can't do it. Okay, so first of all, I'll just get out of the way now. I've been sick for like 2 weeks, so that's why my voice is sounding a lot sexier than it normally does. And then secondly, the reason I did this Q&A is because we were in the field these last 2 weeks, but what we were doing was kind of not focusing on the sexy things like shooting or that first cough was a joke, but then it led to me actually coughing. So the reason I didn't bring my camera out to the field these last 2 weeks was for two reasons. One, because the things we were focusing on weren't really sexy things that would be fun to talk about or interesting to people unless you're like in the nitty-gritty with it like the rest of us. And even then it's not that interesting. So what did we do? So the first thing we did was it was called Leader Forge, which is really just company sticks, but they like to give it a cool name. It was basically a lot of what we've been doing, but working with other platoons. And it was also, the pace was a lot slower than what we were used to. So there was a lot of time where just filming would have been completely useless. And then all the missions were at night, so none of my cameras would be able to pick it up anyway. And then the last thing we just got done doing was Platoon Live Fire, which was interesting in its own fact because it's always interesting seeing how things change and how dynamic things become when you're working with live rounds as opposed to just blanks like we normally do. But honestly, the main reason I didn't film any of that was because I was trying to take it very seriously, because like I said, there were live rounds going around, and if I wasn't taking it 110% seriously, it would have led to bad things. But I asked for questions on both my Instagram and on here, and I'm going to answer a few that I like. Disclaimer, if you ask me a question specifically about like how to get into West Point or will I get into West Point, A, I have no say, nor do I know if you can get in, and two, I already made like a video on that, so I won't really be answering those kinds of questions. If you want to check that out, it's down below. And then before I get started, I want to just go ahead and thank everyone who did ask me a question. It was really encouraging seeing all the responses. And if this goes well, I might do another one later down the line, maybe when I have some more stuff to talk about. Alright, first question. Did you ever consider any other service academy, and if so, why West Point? I considered going to the Air Force Academy. A lot of my friends were going Air Force, and a good buddy of mine did go to the Air Force Academy. But ultimately I decided on West Point because I think the idea of West Point itself, less so than the fact that it was Army, attracted me more than anything. But I don't regret my decision going there as opposed to a different service academy. How long am I planning to be in the military? I really don't know. My contract ends in 4 years, so I have a lot of time to kind of figure out what I want to do and where I want to go forward. If I do stay in, you know, that's great. If I don't, I hope I find something else interesting to occupy my time. How to prepare for Ranger training? I don't know. I haven't done Ranger school yet, so I'll probably be able to tell you what to do when I'm done. My parents aren't supportive about going into the military, but I want to go anyway. Any advice? Yeah, I've had a few friends that parents like begged them and tried to make them all these offers for them not to go into the military. I know it's hard. I got really lucky. My family's super heavy military, and so it was very easy to tell them, hey, I wanted to go to the military too. It was kind of expected at that point. But honestly, when it comes to things like that, like if you're making the decision to go into the military, you're already an adult to a certain degree. Obviously, there's limitations with that, but you just you have to do what you think is right, you know. I think a big problem that I see with a lot of people my age is that they're still super attached to things that don't matter as much as they used to. You know, obviously you love your parents, you want to spend time with them and everything. But I think one of the best things that I ever did in my life was move halfway across the country, even though it meant I only see my family a few times a year. But deep down, if you really want to and you join the military and they see how happy it makes you, you know, it's totally worth it. What's life like on the field? It's a lot less interesting than I make it out to be in my videos. I would honestly say, 75% of it is just lying down in the prone with your weapon, trying not to fall asleep while you stare out into the woods for seemingly hours. Another 20% is walking to where you need to go. And then another 5% is just the actual actions on. It's very repetitive, and now that we're actually kind of done with the field, I'm very relieved because I can kind of get back to doing more normal things and things that aren't just lying around in the woods all day. Why did I join the Army and not any of the other branches? I'm not really sure. I kind of had, like I said earlier, I thought about joining the Air Force to be like a pilot. That kind of really died down in my brain, and then personally, like, all the men in my family have gone Army as opposed to anything else, so it was kind of an easy fit for me. It's what I'm used to. What are you listening to? I'm really digging the new Tame Impala song that came out. I'm hoping the rest of the album looks like that. I also want to go infantry. Why do I hate myself? Man, that's a deep question. What's my favorite pair of boots and why? I will show you, actually. Okay, so boots are super subjective, right? And let me make sure this is in focus. And everyone has their own preferences and what they think is important. You know, some people like a sturdy boot, some people like a light boot. I personally like a light boot. I hate the issued boots that they give you. They feel like literal bricks on your feet. And I actually just retired just a few days ago my favorite pair of boots of all time that I've ever gotten. So 3 years ago when I got my first set of OCPs, I also bought these new boots. Well, they were new at the time, now they're very old. And these are just the Nikes. I'm not sure which model specifically they are, but they're super lightweight. They're amazing for ruck marches, specifically road marches. Sometimes I won't wear them when I'm doing like heavier climbing. I have a different pair of boots with a much better ankle support than that. But I would say 90% of the time, I just stick with these. They're super lightweight, they dry really quickly, and they're really easy to pack in your ruck. So they make, if you don't even wear them as your main one, they make an amazing backup pair. But as you can see, they've definitely seen some things. We actually just did a 16-mile ruck last week, and that was the last time that I'll probably ever wear these. I'm surprised I've not even gotten yelled at because they're so beat up. Like you can see here, it's just like totally off. Maybe like another month and my toes have been popping out of these bad boys. I fully plan on buying a replacement pair of these because I don't even like the new ones. I'm hoping I can buy these older models, but new again. Probably cheaper too. One guy asked, why is armor better than infantry? It's not. What inspired you to make videos, and how do you balance being a civilian soldier and YouTuber? So that's kind of two different questions. Why I started making YouTube videos? I don't know. I've always had this kind of cool thing. I've never done it for like popularity or anything. It's always been, I've had this idea in my head of something I want to show people, and I always had trouble growing up with that concept that like, it's super frustrating. I have no means of doing that. And then once I got to college and I had the means to do it, I thought, you know, why not? I'd love to show people this interesting thing that's going on. And also it's just a form of creative expression. It's a hobby. I love doing it. And I don't see an end in sight so far. And then the question of how do I balance being a civilian, military person and YouTuber? Short answer, I don't. Essentially, like I said, since I've been at Ibolc, it's been field nonstop. And there is no balancing anything but being 110% military all the time when you literally spend maybe 2 nights a week home for months. Now that I'm out of the field, I'm hoping I can get a little bit more balance back. But balance for me doesn't mean like balancing civilian things. It's more like balancing my health so that I can succeed going into ranger school, stuff like that. Not necessarily like being a normal person or whatever that means. Do you enjoy your job? And then they said, haha, like 10 times. Do I like Ibolc? No. Do I enjoy the things that aren't necessarily associated with Ibolc all the time? Yes. Have I been to airborne/air assault? I've been to air assault. I've not been airborne. Why do they keep making Taylor sleep outside in 2019? I don't know, man. I just kind of want to sleep inside sometimes. If I had to drown in any MRE spread, what would it be? Oh man, definitely depends on the day. But I've definitely been feeling jalapeno cheese spread a lot lately. If you'd asked me like a few months ago, I probably would have said cheese with bacon in it, but it's kind of, variety is the spice of life. What's my third favorite dinosaur? The mean thing would be to say your mom, but probably Stegosaurus. Only because I can spell it really fast, because I had to practice that a lot in 2nd grade. I don't know why. Am I a platoon leader? Not yet. That will happen when I get to Fort Hood in Texas. This is a West Point question I'll answer. How hard is it to get selected for infantry, and is it a competitive thing? And I'm answering this mainly because I got asked it like 5 times. The infantry is actually like the 2nd easiest branch to get. A lot of times, if you're branching something else that's not combat arms, they'll make you go infantry for like a few years first, even if you say like you don't want it. Please, for the love of God, don't give me infantry. What's the hardest part about Ibolc, and do you find any joy in it, or is it all a shit show? Hardest part, I think it's honestly just the amount of time you spend training. there's no one thing. I wouldn't say any of it's particularly hard, as in like, you know, a ton of people fail this or like a ton of people can't do this. It's just the fact that you're doing so much for so long, that's what kind of wears you down. And do I find any joy in it? Yeah, you know, I've done some cool stuff now. Do I ever get smoked as an LT at Ibolc? I wouldn't say so, no. I mean, there's some platoons that will smoke you and it's kind of frowned upon, kind of not like supposed to. I mean, people do it, obviously. You know, you can get smoked by your platoon trainers. I would say realistically, it's only happened to me twice, and both times it really wasn't that bad. Barely qualified as a smoking. Am I currently married to my work or to my wife? Honestly, I don't get enough sleep to be married to either at the moment. Do I have to live on base? No, but I like doing it because I hate commuting and it only takes me 3 minutes to get to work in the morning. Do I think Zion is going to be better than LeBron? I don't know what those words mean, but you know, go sports ball. What are my goals in the Army? I don't know. My current goal right now is just get done with Ibolc, get my Ranger tab, and get to my platoon. Since I'm really not super focused on being in the Army for a super long time, my focus isn't really on, you know, doing everything I can to get that next rank or whatever. It's not really that important to me. Things might change, but as of now, my goal is really just get out of here as best trained as I can and then go be the best platoon leader I can be. Not really concerned with anything else at the moment. I know you're right. Do I publish anywhere? Not yet. That probably won't happen. What items would I recommend purchasing for Ibolc? That's another one of those like personal preference kind of things. I personally pack as light as I possibly can. So I think the only things I bought for Ibolc specifically was like a new set of iPro and some knee pads. Other than that, I haven't bought anything. You don't want to be that guy that gets like a ton of gear for no reason. One, you don't need it, and two, it just weighs you down and then weighs everyone else down when you can't carry it all. That's all the questions that I got / answered that are pertinent to this kind of thing. Thank you again for all the support. I had a lot of fun doing this, and it's fun getting to interact with you guys. It's kind of a weird separation thing that I have, that I always like to remind myself that there's people that actually watch. But let me know if you want me to do this again in the future. I'm hoping that maybe by the next time I do this, I'll have more things to talk about, maybe a little bigger audience to get some questions from. But if I didn't answer your question, it's mainly because it's a repeat of a question I just answered, or it's a question that I already made a video on. I try to answer all of them within reason. And this week is mounted ops, which is like to do with vehicles and Bradleys and stuff, and we do like one day in the field, and so I think I'll actually be able to get some cool footage of that, and it won't just be me talking the entire time because, wow, my voice hurts.